really popular name like in the last 5 or 6 years. You're before your parents were before your time. So, okay, I want to give you the official greeting to Rancho Obi-Wan. So if some of you would move like this way,
Well, hello there. Welcome to Rancho Obi-Wan. You'll never find a more splendid hive of fun and thrillery. You've taken your first step into a larger world. Here you shall see things beyond imagination. But your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them. Stretch out with your feelings, but not with your hands. Or you may end up like that poor soul I had to deal with in the Mos Eisley Cantina. Rancho Obi-Wan is Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan. Now that's a name I much prefer to Rancho Ben. I must warn you that a visit here can lead to feelings of intense jealousy, but do not give in to hate. That leads to the dark side. If you're lucky, you also won't give in to a spending spree, even at the Rancho Obi-Wan gift shop. Then again, in my experience, there's no such thing as luck. So pay attention to all instructions, follow your guide, and you will experience a galactic, physical, and spiritual reawakening.
Jango Fett, maybe the silver ones. And we've got a bunch of Han Solo, Luke. We've got Princess Leia's blaster. Obi-Wan for Celebration Europe did Grand Moff Tarkin, which made sense because Peter Cushing is such a British star. And then for Celebration Japan, he did Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, because it was the first official Star Wars convention that Mark went to, and Mark went to high school. And so she suggests that he needs to sort of lighten up and change his look a little. So therefore we have the very subtle Darth Smiley mask. These are actual pieces of the sails from Jabba's sail barge. Wow. This is the material that they used. A little spattered, but that makes it even better.
Yeah.
So yeah, these were out. And when they ripped it down, they cut off big swatches of it and cut it up in pieces as souvenirs. So a lot of the guys kept it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a really cool piece in my kitchen. And then 2 years ago, there was a dog who was they needed the dog to lose weight, and so he was chasing the Passat back and forth, and then the camera panned out at the end of that, and it turned out the commercial was being shown on a flat screen.
Is that from Master Replicas? No.
It is from FX.
FX.
You spelled dated. Oh, that just really started to tick me off. But it is pretty cool. And
That is awesome. Does it come with a mug too?
it comes with the mug with the lightsaber stirrer. And my favorite thing is we have a double entendre here with C-3PO saying "Thank the Maker," which of course is a line from the movie. Which is, of course, a line that fans have adopted, meaning George, and that's a coffee maker. So I guess it's a triple entendre.
Awesome.
I don't know. Over there is an Ahsoka Tano lightsaber baseball bat. Don't worry about walking into the junk. So that is the actual look of Ahsoka from etc. And some other really cool stuff, and art and things like that. Now, you'll notice our friend Darth Maul, who came back from the dead in Star Wars The Clone Wars, but actually Dave Filoni, who is the supervising director, said, you know, George, we already have a really great-looking Darth Maul, and so they used that. I love pieces. Sideshow, I think, is my favorite licensee, because he says, oh, don't worry, Mr. Lucas, I'll help you. And he zips up his costume, and he's a Tauntaun, and he says, get on my back, and I'll take you to the auditorium. And they ride away.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And then Obi-Wan is from the third one, or poop, which looked pretty disgusting anyway. But one thing didn't change, and it became even more noticeable when the art director for my first encyclopedia decided to use just this piece of art for the cover of the encyclopedia. Well, Drew Struzan either deliberately, or probably because he didn't realize it, turned Luke's lightsaber red and Vader's blue. And so we got all these emails and phone calls from people saying, how can we trust an encyclopedia that doesn't even know the difference between Darth Vader and Luke? And we said, look, it was an homage to the artist. That's a word you use when you're cheating and stealing, borrowing, and yeah, so there's a lot of homages. Okay, so This, by the way, was made by the R2-D2 builders, another informal group around the world that builds their own droids, almost all of which can do more than any of the ones ILM built for the movies. And in fact, George and Rick McCallum, who was the producer of the prequel, and it's 6 volumes, he picked 280 stills from each movie, and they're in here. Let me get a book out. They're in here, and it's leather bound, and there's a George signature in the middle, and they come in this beautiful box, which we've now called Yoda's coffin, unless it's the other way, and we call it Vader's coffin. They didn't do very good quality control, though. I'll tell you about that in a second. So this is episode 4, and you can just see, George has picked both close-ups and
Wow.
scene. Oh, I like that. Huh?
Wow.
That's weird. Usually I bought all these gloves because you just get fingerprints, but the heck with it. So anyway, when my book came, no discount for Lucasfilm employees, this whole case was smashed on the top, and clearly they had done no quality control, because even before it got smashed, if that was in the shipping, this molding had been broken off, and somebody had put in just tan putty. I was like, what? And so I called the head of publishing and said, I'm sending back the box, and she said, well, how are your books? $500 book and discounted on Amazon, but there is a slightly smaller version coming out this fall without the slipcase, still hardcover, for $60, and still with all the foldouts and everything, and worth every penny, because this book has blueprints and photos that I've never seen before. So it's about 80% the classic movie and about 20% the prequels, because you get more hand-drawn plans. The plans for the prequels, of course, are all done on computer, just about. So you get the sets and the buildings. You get the creatures that they, have to get inside the costumes. So like here is the layout of Mos Eisley and all the back alleys and everything that you saw in the movie, and it was all built. And then you get, here is the original blueprint for the Millennium Falcon.
Wow.
You say, well, wait a second.
It's a lot different.
That doesn't look like the Millennium Falcon. In fact, it looks like the Blockade Runner, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a problem. So, while they were still in the early stages of production, there was a TV show called Space 1999. And their main ship was something that was very long and looked a little like this. And George said, we've got to change it. I mean, we can still use it because it's not a ripoff. We came up with our own. But people will say, and the Falcon is too important a ship. So in French and in German and hardcover. And then the 1,000 Collectibles book, which is sort of almost like a guide to some of the stuff that you're going to see today. The biggest printing was about 250,000 of the Star Wars Vault in 8 different editions. That was lots of fun. Hey, you learn a lot about life and other countries and cultures. I didn't realize that Braille books were still popular, but they are, even with books on tape and everything. So there are always typos and things you want to change and everything. Well, they have to do the same thing on a Braille book. So here's a correction sheet.
Wow.
So somebody who is sighted and can read Braille, and especially for a Star Wars book with all those crazy names, goes through and checks everything. And then this is my very first Star Wars collectible. So I was a reporter in the Los Angeles office of the Wall Street Journal, and this came to the guy who covered the movie business. Early '77, it was done by Fox and Lucasfilm to try to get these theater owners and film bookers to run Star Wars, and they sent them to the media too. So it was this really nice color booklet and stories and very elaborate, pages falling out and everything, but this guy wasn't quite the kind of guy that you could ask for something because he would think that maybe, I don't know. So anyway, he finished with it and threw it away into his trash can. And I waited till he left for the day. What do you think I did? I took it from a Strauss case.
I do that all the time.
Oh, I do that. Good idea. That was the first of my dumpster diving, but not the last, I'll tell you. So let's see. Sometimes I have to give him a slight shock. John? Mr. Williams? Mm-hmm. It doesn't hurt much. And then all of the equipment, which is a lot of tubes and circuits and everything, is under this socket back here. They operated on a compressor, which was in an abandoned three-car garage downstairs, which is now Ann and her husband's kitchen. So, but anyway, you know, it has a nice IKEA cabinet over there. Now, even more directly, the fans. Part of that was out of frustration that no one knew how to market the movie. But in 1976, the head of publicity and multiple characters, Luke and Han, a little bit of Obi-Wan and things like that, but that was the hero character. And I thought nothing else of it. You know, somebody painted the logo and everything. And then Ralph was here about 6 years ago. Ralph was the artist responsible for the entire look of the original trilogy. And Ralph said, "Oh yeah, I remember painting that." And I said, "Wait a second. You hand-painted the sign?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I did whatever they wanted. And besides, that's my logo, and I still like it better than theirs." So we have probably the world's only hand-painted Ralph McQuarrie banner, which he also did a very nice job painting the blue and the black background on, because, you know, Ralph was the most humble guy in the world and remained that until his death at 82. Just a great guy and a good friend. The gold record was awarded by the Recording Industry Association for 500,000 sales of the double soundtrack album. It went on to cross 1 million, so it got platinum and then went even higher. Take lots of pictures. They ran a big story on StarWars.com, and eventually they figured out what they'd do with it, and there was an internal auction for AIDS and breast cancer sufferers. And so I won it because I knew that I had to have it so Pete could come over and fix it if there was a problem with it. Well, whatever. So here we have the Darth Vader horn. And if that doesn't scare you to make you go out of the way, you shoot somebody. So we took a bunch of the old Kenner toys. And of course you need, if you're riding it at night, you need a front headlight. You know, our little blue lightsaber. And a rear headlight. A rear tail light. Heavier and harder to manipulate, but it's a vinyl. And in order, there is a scene where 3PO had to move his fingers a little and pick up something, so they had to use the equivalent of a hot air gun, and then for a minute the fingers would be a little more flexible, and then just a ball of sticky tape, and then they didn't show that in close-up.
Yeah.
Now, Anthony was in the costume all day because it took so long to put it on, and he was against a slant board and everything. And poor Anthony thought that people were just thinking he was a droid, not a real person inside. And they were right. No, that's... and then, so he had these matchbook covers done and put them on the catering table. 3PO is human. Of course, everybody on the crew knew what he was getting into, so they would walk past and say, "Hey, PO, thanks for the matches!"
I work for the company that caters
And then
these.
put silly names on them and signed them and sold them for ridiculous prices to stupid collectors. And down here we've got the Bounty Hunter Forlom from Empire Strikes Back. And Forlom was named by ILM. It means for the love of money. And I made a mistake once. A British journalist asked me, "Well, you know, what's like one of the weirdest things you have in your collection?" And I told him. So the lead of the story was, Steve Sansweet is such a Star Wars nut that he has the genitals of a bounty hunter. Never made that mistake again. And then one of the few things George changed in Empire, getting better and better resource information, especially with the Blu-ray. And I put together the suit at 3 different times, long time ago. And we have determined now, based on the close-ups on the Blu-ray, based on the fact that behind the codpiece there's the original costumer's tag, that the leather undersuit, the undercape, and the codpiece were screen used in Star Wars. The helmet and the mask are definitely an Empire version, and there's some debate among the experts, not me, whether it was screen used in Empire or first used in Jedi. They used the same 6 helmets. And then the rest of the costume is all from an appearance costume and cleaned up and fixed up for me by friends at ILM. So, yeah, there's the hot switch. Very good. And these letters are in Hebrew, and they mean nothing. Saber from Empire Strikes
Yeah,
Back.
please, can I hold that right
So this was used to train Mark Hamill to do real lightsaber fighting. Oh, he wants his picture with it. Oh, that's unusual. And please pass it around. Feel free to take pictures. So don't parry correctly, you're going to get black and blue. Now, when they had real celebrities that they paid lots of money to, like Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor, they used very thin, hollow aluminum tubes that bent if you looked at them cross-eyed. And then they would do a rehearsal that they filmed. And he came in about 10 minutes later, and I said, "I have never seen anything like that. I would love to buy it, have it in my collection. A lot of people could see it." And he said, "Oh, I wouldn't know what to charge you for it." And I thought, "Oh boy, here it comes." And he said, "I only paid $4 in supplies." And I said, no. It's your artistry and your talent. And it's a little weight. Now, this very strange photo here was taken near Skywalker Ranch. And it was for an ad campaign in Japan between 1987 and 91 that used George and all the characters. But I can't, this is one of my favorite photos because it's the most bizarre. And why are the stormtroopers applauding? Why are the Royal Guards holding PVC pipes with giant wiffle balls?
Yeah.
And what are the Ewoks doing? I mean, I don't know.
The whole gang's there.
Very strange. In here, we're a little closer to present day, from the prequels. And this is a sliced-off battle droid backpack that was on the floor of the feed hangar. There were only 2 full-size built battle droids there to give Liam and Ewan an idea of size, and everything else was CG. But it was a lot cheaper to have actual parts all over the floor than it was to do those CG. These are from the F1 art department to show George's scale of figures against the foam core sets that they built. Wow. And then he'd also be able to say, you know what, in that scene, I think I'm going to sort of take that from a different angle, so we need to extend the hallway. Gave him a good idea. And this is another piece done for the DK Visual Dictionary. This is supposedly the inside of a battle droid head. So they wanted to have everything photographic, and some things just didn't exist. The original Cantina instruments don't exist at Lucasfilm. So they built those too, using some of the same techniques like sprinkler can heads and things. And so last year we did the Star Tots, we did coins for a couple of years, and I'll show you something else in the back. And of course it all started with action figures. And just like the one with the worst teeth in Return of the Jedi.
That's right.
Maybe that was deliberate. Yeah. I mentioned the droids in the Ewoks cartoon series before, not so popular in the U.S., but very popular in Latin America and Europe. So we have these Ewok squeeze toys. They're either for babies or dogs or both. I'm not quite sure. And these little slide viewers, which look like TV sets. And then there was one very strange figure. And this is a reproduction from a guy in Singapore. Got some of my favorite pieces from an artist, U.S. artist in the UK.
Those are cool.
And they're sort of like South Park kinds of things, but 3D, and they all have attitude. I just love love the way they've been made, along with Han for a Giants game. Last year they did the Death Star baseball. I don't know what they're up to this year. Of course, Disney got into the game too, and so if you go to Disney World and Star Wars weekends especially, you can get yourself in Carbonite for only $99, and I still can't quite get the hair right. And then finally, I saved the best for last, none other than George in Carbonite. So this is done by a friend of mine in Japan, and George was given a copy of this. I don't know what the reaction was. And then my friend Goro says, well, he's going to build a full-scale one for Celebration Japan. And he kept sending me progress photos, and he kept adding to the belly. I said, Goro, he doesn't have this huge belly. He's not pregnant with a monster or something. Yeah, his neck, and he's overweight, but not the belly. And he kept adding to it anyway. I said, you're going to get me fired, man. It's Hasbro, or Kenner's way of trying to get into mail order business. And it's a really nice piece, but they didn't know how to market it. It was supposed to be followed up by Luke. It never was. Vader was the last piece in the line, so Luke only exists as the plastic piece. Now, bootlegs are a really interesting item because I shouldn't have bootlegs, of course, since I work for Lucasfilm, but everybody collects bootlegs. Some people are now specializing in bootlegs, and these guys in Turkey, Uze, thought they could get away with it because, as you just pointed out, it's not Star Wars, it's Stars War. Plus, the characters, well, they decided they would spell them a little different. Chewbacca, Hat Driver, Darth Vader.
Awesome.
And you remember the troops that landed with Vader on Hoth?
Yeah.
You know,
Snow dudes, yeah.
yeah, the Blue Stars.
Oh.
Huh?
You mean Cobra Commander?
Uh-huh. Yeah, maybe that's where they got the idea. Blue Stars. But my favorite is this guy, because this is the Imperial Gunner. So he's at the controls of the laser cannon that destroys Alderaan, is about to destroy Yavin 4. So remember, the controls of the Death Star laser cannon.
Imperial Gunner.
Or a 1983 calculator.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Wow, guys, look at that.
Oh man.
Calculator. That is crazy.
That is so. Okay, I need a picture.
It's so bizarre. I love
It's a
that.
calculator.
Elementary schools have metal detectors.
Wow. Did
Unfortunate,
not know
but
that.
No, I didn't either.
I thought it was
More
a
than
cost.
50? Is that what you said?
More than 50%.
That's incredible.
Elementary school?
For about 10 years, this was the only three-dimensional replica of the Death Star, a disco Death Star, no less, but it was a pencil sharpener from the UK from
Wow.
78. And there's a great R2-D2 desk caddy down there. Moving more to the bootleg area. This was in the office of our chief counsel at Lucasfilm. Strange and tiny. The largest ship in Star Wars, of course, is an Imperial destroyer. You try to make that out of mess. So it's photolith from China.
Man. Wow.
Very, very strange. I wouldn't attempt to make it.
No.
And then we have wooden model kits and paper model kits. You cut these out from sheets, with scissors, and glue them together. This came to Lucasfilm that way. I never could have done it. Then you have these
Yeah,
bizarre
that's weird. What is that?
Japanese model kits from 1978, bootleg.
Look at their arms.
Those are rad.
Wow. Yeah, why does Vader have
They're
a
like Puppet
claw?
Master mixed
Yeah.
with Star
Sorry.
Wars.
Very strange, but stranger still. I didn't even realize what I had. I've had this for years, but this is the World War II German R2D2.
Wow.
See,
Of course.
how'd you like to be dragged under the sewage by that? When they came back with the action figures in '95 after not being on the shelves for 9 years, they convinced Lucasfilm that they had to be like real superhero He-Man
It
type.
was. I remember when that came out. I was like, "What did they do to Luke on
And so
roids?"
look at Luke. I named her Monkey Face Leia, and that stuck. Han can't even fit behind the cockpit of the Falcon they were selling then. Even the stormtroopers and C-3PO looked like the Hulk. And that was the German store display. It took about 2 years for that to work out of the line. This is from Sideshow, a number of pieces from Jabba's palace, and now there's some more, but we don't have enough shelf space. But simple kind of thing, and I obviously won it in the auction, and for months I would come in here at night before I go to bed, shut off all the lights, and just stare at it. It's 140-watt bulb. It's a color wheel that goes around at normal speed with just 2 gels filled in, and then a bunch of fiber optics. And for the life of me, I can't figure out how it works. Because some of the lights stay on all the time and sort of sparkle, and then you get that whole change, and then the color changes, and then the words change. And I think there must be little guys in there that just sort of very talented stunt guy, Paul Weston. And he was the first guy to go over the side of the sail skiff, Jabba's sail skiff. When Luke got his lightsaber back, he was in one of the alien costumes, the Barada or the Nikto, I'm never sure what it was. And he did a great job. He landed in the Sarlacc, everything, there were mattresses down there and all that kind of stuff. So, and then the director, of course, wants a different angle, and so he goes back up there. And in the meantime, somebody had moved a very thick coil of rope over, and his foot got caught in it, and his leg smashed against the side of the skiff. And back then they made plaster casts. And this particular one is signed by some interesting people. Scoreboard, Sarlacc 1, Stuntman 5, Get Well, Mark Hamill. What, and Give Up Show Business, Your Loving Nurse Day Shift, Carrie Fisher. Somebody over here wrote, Plastered Again, Hope Your Next Break's a Good One. Ha ha. Kenny Baker wrote Break a Leg, Use R2D2. Somebody drew a Yoda. My favorite, because of where it was filmed in the desert of California near Yuma, Arizona, was Robert Watts, who was the associate producer, who wrote, Don't Lose Your Sense of Yuma. I love puns. Bad.
It's awesome.
Bad. That's okay. What do we get?
For real.
A cold can of Pepsi. So it's your home Pepsi
Wow.
can dispenser or any other 12-ounce beverage. And it fits 8, and it cools them off in about 5 minutes. It's pretty amazing.
Wow.
It was a sweepstakes prize from Pepsi Japan, which is owned by Suntory, the big liquor company. And they made 500 of them. You entered the sweepstakes for the right to buy one.
That is awesome.
It is a totally awesome piece.
Yeah.
I love that piece.
R2, can you give me a beer, please?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Yes, he can. Revolutionary. He was a bad guy to a lot of people and a good guy to a lot of others. There's a famous Mexican picture bingo game called Loteria, and there's a pretty famous style of art that goes back to the late 1890s that is still used today, very, very clever. And here's an artist I became friendly with in Austin who did
Wow.
a Star Wars version, Juego de Space Loteria. And so a couple of the cards we've made larger. So El Camarón, or the shrimp, is Yoda with Sam Jackson hair from Pulp Fiction.
Love it.
And El Barril, we have R2D2 with a little beanie and feet. So very
Weird.
strange, but very clever. Lead figures. And they got a very quick lawsuit And so 6 months later, they came back with this, and I said,
Again.
"What is that? A Playboy bunny stormtrooper?" And somebody then pointed out to me, "Well, they're breakpoints. You take off the ear and you take off the tail."
And then
And then they got sued again. So, and then we have strange things from China like crawl babies.
No, man, that's
Oh.
just weird.
It's very weird. They also have Spider-Man and Jack
Crawl baby.
Skellington and My Little Kitty and just all kinds of and these strange things. Written a story that somebody might want to send us a bomb. And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Well, she had just opened the top of the package and saw this." I said, "I'm sure it's not a bomb, but why don't you step back and I'll open it." I was so brave.
Lightsaber face.
So I opened it. Somebody had handmade a lightsaber and put the crystal back there and then did a whole write-up, an in-fantasy write-up about what this was all about and how it was made and things like that.
That was
And
awesome.
we've remained friends. This is a guy in Wisconsin, and one of his latest pieces, this is sort of like part of the stormtrooper costume in the back, and so he's made a small soapbox derby car. Looks like a
That was
stormtrooper.
raw.
Guy is super creative. Super creative. This is done Toys R Us. They made it at Toys R Us. FAO Schwartz.
That's
And
awesome.
they made about 8 or 10 of them to hang shirts on. So, back of you we have R2 Mr. T2.
Oh,
And
yes.
he appeared on the Conan O'Brien show when George was on. And they wanted to borrow a real R2 unit from Lucasfilm, and they said they needed it for 3 days, and Lucasfilm said, no, can't do it. And I said, well, I have this really lightweight one made by some friends in Australia, but you have to return it to me just the way you trick it out. So while I was still at Lucasfilm, that was outside my office. The lightsaber wasn't working, so I called friends at Lego, and they talked around the people who were responsible for it. And they said that happened to one of the other two that they sold, and they actually sent a technician out to fix it. And I was really impressed. But they said they couldn't remember. It was either Joey Fatone of NSYNC or Michael Jackson. So you know it was Michael Jackson because somebody wanted to see Neverland.
Yeah.
Me, they sent a mold from Germany, and they said, screw it. In. Screw it. And then it was cheaper than doing it in CG. They made grandstands. They did this very fine mesh as a grid, and they painted 100,000 cotton swabs and then cut them all, put them in the grid, and then blew air underneath. So when the camera was up here, it looked like 100,000 heads moving.
Wow.
Just
that's crazy.
quite bizarre, but cheaper and quicker than doing it CG. So that's how they figured that out.
Geniuses.
Yeah.
Behind you is the 3D blueprint for the full-size Millennium Falcon. It was a really complex pictures taken by Gary Kurtz, the producer. They built it in a shipyard in Wales and then cut it in 16 sections and trucked it over to Elstree Studios.
Wow.
So if you want your own Ewok costume, there's your original fur, acrylic. That was from Stuart Freeborn, the Creature Maker's home workshop. Stuart just died a couple of months ago at the age of 98.
Wow.
He's an amazing guy. The Yoda bronze, 4 friends and I commissioned, and as a result, Larry got a lot of other commissions from George, and it's a great piece, and it's on the fountain outside Lucasville. And down here, they bought about a ton of aircraft salvage pieces, and this is the very piece you see in the movie behind Liam Neeson. They just abandoned it all there. It's, sure, mess up the Tunisian desert, why don't again? And this was the museum. So, welcome to the Tantive 4.
I've seen this on TV.
And the Carter was actually built by the R2 builders, and we adapted it. And I just give you a warning that sometimes we get some problems from Imperials, but let me handle it, because I'm used to them.
Give me a blaster.
Come on up. No blasters, no blasters. These are one-to-one pieces from Sideshow. Really, really nice sculptures. So we actually, our contractor guys figured out.
So we're just about to execute the Wookiee clear.
Well, I'm just taking this
We'll
photo.
need to see some identification.
You don't need to see my identification.
We don't need to see their identification.
What about the guests?
These aren't the guests you're looking for.
These aren't the guests we're looking for.
We can continue on our tour.
We can let them through now.
Thanks, bud.
Move along.
Yeah.
Move along.
Did a deal together.
Wow.
So, now you're looking at cupcakes on the TIE Fighter there. That is a little strange. Have you ever heard of Cupcake Wars on the Food Network?
Yes, I
Okay,
have.
so this was a show that the winning team would win $10,000 plus a trip and celebration to make 1,000 cupcakes. And then this was the display, and then afterwards they said they were going to. And so that got stuck inside a land speeder, went into storage. The guy in the storage place found it, called Rick McCallum, the producer, and said, I don't want that piece of crap. And he said, the Zap scooter goes, as an electric scooter, goes 13 miles an hour, made it look like a stack for one of those flying platforms that the battle droids flew in Episode 1. And 2 amazing golf bags from Japan by Bridgestone, the Stormtrooper, and Darth Vader. So, now you may put some lights and sound in. And so I sent him the top, and then he said, now we're sitting around here, we could make a bit of an R2 and a bit of an X-Wing, and I said, do it. And so we now have droid control.
That is awesome.
How you doing, R2? Yeah, okay. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. Hello. Yes, hello yourself. Should always remember to turn this on first. Okay. You ready? Okay.
The Death Star is a fantastic collection of exotic technology.
Much more complicated. You're inside of a massive battleship. Rooms and corridors different from anything they've ever done before.
The Death Star surface, lasers are a couple of different sizes.
There's a rumbling, some kind of transition in energy. There's a lot of different cannons and trenches and exhaust pipes, a large barrel, cooling rods, ammo pits.
The concept of the TIE Fighter is much more spindle like a glider compared to a fighter. The style of TIE Fighter changed radically. Tiny little self-chains goes off into a more of a hexagonal core of the whole dark side.
Have you now? Today we see the end of this mythic rebellion. Get the crews to their fighters and put all sections on alert. Fire when ready.
And the animation that you see at the bottom is mostly all music.
Red 3 standing by. Red 6 standing by.
Red 9 standing by.
Red 5 standing by.
Podcast balls in attack position.
This is it, boys. Red 5, I'm going in. Watch yourself. Another fire coming from the right side of that deflection tower. I'm on it.
I just lost my starboard engine. Get down.
Hey, wait, let's close it up. Going in, we're going in full throttle.
Look at that speed. We'll be able to pull out in time.
It's just like Beggars Canyon back home.
right were shot at Tikal, Guatemala. And those are the original Mayan temples. And the guy in the thing there is Lauren Peterson, who was a model maker in all 6 movies. Lauren and I and a bunch of friends were back there 2 years ago, same spot, it looks virtually the same. And we asked Lauren, so how come you got up there? And he said, because I was crazy. 35 years ago, Fox said the budget has run out. George had seen Tikal on a travel poster, and they wanted him to shoot it at Adventureland in Anaheim. And George said, no way. So he got $20,000 to go down there. And there were 3 guys from ILM that hired a Guatemalan crew. It took a day because the jungle had still overtaken us before they had cut the jungle growth out. Now they have like 350 steps up to the top. And it took them a day to get all the equipment up to the top of the pyramid. And the Guatemalan government let them put these camping, whatever you call those things, into 2 places in the mortar. The widest step was about this wide. So it was a base and about a 5-foot pole, and then some sort of trash cans on the top. And they had a 6-foot ladder. And it was supposed to be one of the Guatemalan guys who we met. We actually met 2 of the crew guys. And he said, at that point, I could speak no English at all. And when the director kept saying, and the cameraman kept saying, slow down, he did just the opposite and sped up. And it was supposed to be a very slow thing, taken at all times of day. The George didn't know what he wanted, how he was going to use it eventually. And so they picked Lauren because he was the only one of the 3 who wasn't married with kids. And he gets up to the top, and he said, well, wait a second. How do I get into the bucket? It's like, I can't jump over the top. I'll die. And I said, there are holes in it. You just have to align it right and get the opening. And so he was able to get in there and, spent like 2 or 3 days filming the thing. And then one of the Guatemalan fans brought the helmet. And
Awesome.
Took pictures of Lauren up there. The great guy has tons of stories. These were made about blurry later, which is amazing.
Yeah.